Alright everyone, welcome back. So, there has been a huge abundance of draft content on my channel the last couple of weeks. I've done a lot of drafts with my podcast. I've done a lot of prospect previews. Now I'm giving my second mock draft for the 2024 NHL draft. Now, a few things to keep in mind here. Last draft I did 15 picks. This draft I am doing 16 picks. And there are some new players. There are some players who are no longer on this list that were on it when I did this in January of 2024. So we're essentially a month ahead, and a lot of things can change in a month. So I just want to say one more thing before I get started. I have been changing this order so much. Like I could do a completely different order of this draft again. Like that's what this draft feels like. It feels so unpredictable when you look at it right now. So I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's get straight into it here. So starting off at 16th overall, going to the St. Louis Blues, I have Becket Sennecke from Oshawa. He was not on my list when I did this the first time. Sennecke's risen up the rankings a lot recently, put up good offensive numbers in Oshawa, has a great shot, drives the play, great physicality, is solid defensively. I think he'd be a good pick there for St. Louis at 16. I've even heard rumors, though, that he might go higher. Obviously, we'll see if that actually comes into fruition, and that will actually happen. But I got Sennecke at 16th overall. I think it makes the most sense right now for the St. Louis Blues at the very least. 15th overall, dropping 4 spots from where I had him in my last mock. I have Greentree going 15th overall to the Detroit Red Wings. He is from Windsor, has good offensive talent, nice shot, decent speed. He is a guy, though, that I feel like has attitude issues, and I think it's going to really drop him in this draft. I think that Greentree is one of those players that he might not even be in the top 16 when the actual draft occurs a month from now. So it's something that I wouldn't be surprised happens. Obviously, there's a chance that he could go higher, but I feel like when I look at the current state and just the history of guys with bad attitude, I think Greentree, there's a pretty solid chance that he will drop down in the rankings. Number 14, going to the San Jose Sharks via the Pittsburgh Penguins pick. I have Michael Brandsegg-Nygard from Mora IK in the European leagues. He is dropping 1 spot from where I had him in my last ranking. So, Nygard, I'm a fan of. I really enjoy Nygard a lot. I think he has good offensive talent. I think he's solid in the face-off circle. I think he's a guy that could be underrated, could be an underrated selection here for the San Jose Sharks, and is a player that I think is very underrated in this draft and may go under the radar as a solid player. And I think that for San Jose, they're trying to gather more forwards and more offensive talent. I think Brandsegg-Nygard's a really good place to start off with that, so that's why I have him going at 14th overall. Would you imagine Nygard with Celebrini? Be pretty solid. 13th overall to the Minnesota Wild, dropping 4 spots from where I had him last time. I have Konsta Helenius going at 13th overall. Now, I've seen some things that say that he might actually go higher, and I wouldn't disagree with you, honestly. Again, as I said, I could change a lot of the rankings that I have on my list, and I think that, above all, it's going to change a lot until I make my final one ahead of the NHL draft in about a month from now. So definitely stay tuned for that. But Helenius, I think, is a solid Finnish forward. I think he's a guy who passes the puck well, moves it very well. They only count primary assists in Finland, so I think he has 22 assists. So that's impressive for a kid playing in Jokerit in the Finnish pro leagues. I think that's very impressive, in my opinion. So Helenius there at 13th overall. At 12th overall here now, I have Carter Yakemchuk going to the Philadelphia Flyers. So it's the first defenseman that we have in this draft. He's from the Calgary Hitmen. He's a good offensive, bigger defenseman, can hit, move the puck well, contributes offensively. Philadelphia needs defense. That's the biggest thing they kind of need right now. I feel like adding Yakemchuk into that top 4 makes things pretty solid. I do think the top 4 as a whole is good right now, as it is, But I do think that if they could add someone like, let's say, Yakemchuk, or even if someone drops like Silayev, or even someone like Sam Dickinson, maybe. Like this draft could go anywhere. Maybe Dickinson drops. We'll see. But if we can get someone there as a defenseman at the 12th overall selection, I wouldn't be complaining whatsoever. However, though, if we were to go and get a forward, I wouldn't be too mad, but it would depend on the forward. If we reach for a guy like Cole Eiserman, I'd be very frustrated. But if we got someone like Helenius, I'd be okay with it. But I feel like the move they'll probably make is signing a defenseman at that 12th overall pick. But we shall see. We shall see what Philadelphia wants to do. There's a whole month again before the actual draft occurs, and I'm sure that it's going to change a lot, as I've said numerous times. Number 11, dropping 5 spots from where I had him last ranking, I have Cole Eiserman to the Buffalo Sabres. So, here's my thought process. In January of 2024, I had Eiserman at 6. There were already talks of him kind of falling already, as it is. And he was projected to be like probably the second best prospect in this draft when the season started. I don't think I made a prospect preview on him when I made my ones too early in early 2023. But Eiserman was projected to probably be the second best player at that point. But as of January 2024, he fell to around 6th in my rankings. Now he's 11th. So he keeps kind of just falling down. And the reason why is the only skill I feel like he has is goal scoring. He reminds me a lot of Cole Caulfield. He reminds me a lot of Cole Caulfield heading into his draft year. And I feel like there might be some attitude issues there, and there might be some laziness to his game, and I think that might make a lot of sense. He's a good goal scorer. I think there's teams on this board that need goal scorers. Like if he drops to Philadelphia at 12, I guess we could go with him because he needs goal scorers, but I wouldn't be 100% on board with it either, though, as a Philadelphia Flyers fan. But I think Eiserman at 11 probably makes the most sense. Buffalo, I think they're willing to let him develop in their system. I know they're trying to make the playoffs right now, but I think they'd be willing to let him develop in their system at that time. Moving into the top 10, dropping 2 spots from where I had him in my last ranking, I have Anton Silayev going 10th overall to Torpedo. Or from Torpedo to the New Jersey Devils. So Silayev's a big boy. He's really tall, 6'7", physical defenseman, really defensive, got regular shifts in the KHL this season. And I think that honestly, for a guy like Silayev, I think it's impressive to see him play at this level and, play really well in the KHL and get regular shifts too. Like that's the biggest thing. He got regular shifts in the KHL. So that's impressive there from a younger kid like him. And I think for a team like New Jersey, you want big defensemen. I think a big defenseman will work out for the Devils, and I think that'd be a smart move to make there if I'm the New Jersey Devils overall. Would they make it? Maybe not, but obviously, only time will tell when the draft comes. So, moving into number 9, we have our second of 2 players that were not on the first draft. He wasn't really hyped up until recently. I have Tij Iginla at number 9 to the Calgary Flames from Kelowna. I think it makes the most sense to put him at 9. He could go higher. He could honestly go higher. Chances are there will be a team that's above him, that there'll be a team that's above them that will select Iginla. It all depends on if somebody like Cayden Lindstrom's on the board, because I think the majority of the players that are going to get selected above Iginla are defensemen. It's a really defensive draft this year. And that's not to downgrade anything that Iginla has done, but above all, Iginla has had a great WHL campaign, and I think bringing him back over to where his dad played for so long would just seem like storybook. Like Shane Doan playing for the Coyotes and then Josh Doan being drafted by them. I feel like that's just storybook. It just makes sense. And even if they find out that the Iginla's going at 5 or something, they might trade up to get him. Honestly, that might be something that we see happen, but we'll find out. 8th overall to the Seattle Kraken here now. I have Berkeley Catton of Spokane. He's rising up 1 spot in my draft rankings. We're going to see some guys drastically rise in my rankings. I've done a lot of changes since January. I've done a lot more research on prospects. So, Catton's a great forward. I think he fit in just well with Seattle, surrounded on that line with Beniers and Shane Wright. I think that's a great dynamic first line. However, if Seattle wanted to go with a defenseman there, I wouldn't be too mad. But I do think that the defensemen that are really good would be off the board by then, in my opinion. But obviously, we shall see if that is actually the possibility there. But Catton at 8, I think, makes the most sense. Again, there's a chance they take a defenseman, but if Catton's there at 8, they simply cannot pass it up. They need to go with someone like Berkeley Catton. 7th overall, dropping one spot from where I had him in my last ranking, I have Sam Dickinson of the London Knights going to the Ottawa Senators at 7th overall. So, Dickinson, I am a big fan of because, first off, his last name's Dickinson. And I think that he has great defensive game. He's a big, towering guy. I would love to see him on one of my teams, but I know it's not going to happen. But I think Dickinson would fit in just well with the Senators. And the Senators are already trying to move out a guy like Chychrun and try and get another defensive player. And I think Sam Dickinson's the best guy for that job, in my opinion. You might disagree with me, but that's kind of what I feel in that situation. If they wanted to go with the best player available, they go with Berkeley Catton, but I feel like they would want a defenseman more, in my opinion. So I think they go Dickinson at number 7. Number 6, moving in on here. So I'm going a little bit fast. I apologize for that. I feel like I kind of am. I got Zane Parekh going to Utah. So Parekh rising up 6 spots in my draft rankings. I had him 12th in January. So him being at 6 in May is a pretty dramatic rise there when you're looking in terms of, overall rises in my rankings. I think he's the swiftest rising player. So Parekh, I think, would make the most sense. Utah wants a defenseman. Parekh's a towering, great offensive and defensive defenseman. And I think that a guy like Parekh added to a top 4 of Simashev, Durzi, Moser, and obviously Parekh, I think that'd be good. I think that'd be solid. I don't know if that's like the pairing of the future. I don't know if that's the top 4 of the future, but as of right now, that'd be what their pairing would look like. Hopefully, though, they select a defenseman. I really hope they don't go forward because I'll be kind of annoyed. But I wouldn't mind Parekh at 6th overall to Utah. I think that makes the most sense. 5th overall, moving into the top 5 now, I have Cayden Lindstrom. Actually dropping 2 spots since my last ranking. So, the funny thing is that I had Artyom Levshunov below Lindstrom. I had Lindstrom at 3 in January. So, I think Lindstrom's dropped, not because he's bad, but because I feel like other players have risen above him. And Lindstrom's that good, big body center. And I think it's something that Montreal has said they've wanted for years. And I think it make the most sense for Montreal to go out and get him. That's what my thought process is there when I look in terms of Lindstrom and what Montreal needs. And they need a forward. If they go with another defenseman, I don't know if I could get through that. I genuinely don't know if I could do that. Their defense would be insane, but they wouldn't be able to score at all. So that'd be like the funny thing with Montreal. Number 4, I got Zeev Buium heading to Columbus. People might not like that, but I'm very high on Buium. I am rising up 6 spots from my last ranking. I had him at 10th in January. Now that I know a lot more about these prospects, I am very high on a guy like Buium. I feel, honestly, that he is the best defenseman in this draft outside of Levshunov. And I think that he's a player who is great offensively, blossomed in the World Juniors, and just overall was impressive this year. This year with Denver, obviously won a national title, and I think that the team, like, Buium was a big backbone to why that team even won, and I think that, honestly, him on Columbus with an already pretty struggling decor, even though they have a lot of defensive prospects, I think Buium would make the most sense there at 4. Number 3. So number 3 is Anaheim. I think the number 3 is pretty consensus. You should know what I'm talking about here. Rising up 1 spot from my last rankings, I have Artyom Levshunov. Levshunov from Michigan State. Probably the best defenseman in this draft. Is great offensively, great defensively. And Anaheim's looking for a right shot defenseman. That's what Levshunov is. So I like Levshunov there at number 3. It makes complete sense for them to go with Levshunov there, obviously. And I think when you're looking in terms of what Anaheim needs, they need defensemen. Again, like, their forward core is literally insane. It's so stacked. And they need a defenseman to kind of bolster that a little bit. So I think Levshunov's the best way to go there. Number 2, Ivan Demidov. I think that should be no surprise. He has not moved at all. He's one of the few players that didn't move at all. I think, actually, he's one of 2 players in my entire rankings that didn't move at all since my January one. So that shows how crazy, just, like, good these top 2 guys are. So Demidov, great offensive, rounded center. I think is a guy that could surround Bedard very well. I think he actually can play both left wing and center. So Demidov there, an impressive player, has been great in the KHL and the MHL. Someone pointed out to me that 3 KHL games equals not being in the KHL, which is really. But regardless, Demidov's been great. I think that he's the second best player in this draft for sure. And we'll see what happens when he goes to Chicago. And then finally at number 1, should not surprise anyone here, I have Macklin Celebrini from Boston University. This is the other one that did not change whatsoever in my rankings from previously. I think you got to go with Celebrini here, a great offensively minded player. He's nicknamed the Cheetah. I made a prospect preview on him yesterday. I think it makes the most sense for them to go with a guy like Celebrini at first overall to San Jose. And yeah, that is my 2024 mock draft number 2. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I will be doing more of these. I know I'm going to be doing more of the Nordcast and the Nordblock podcast. There will be at least 3 more coming out soon. But this is my last one for a little bit, hopefully. But regardless, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe down below. I really appreciate it. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.